In Japan, a nation of 125 million people, over 40% of men under the age of 30 now report a preference for AI companions over the complexities of human dating. This isn't a projection from a science fiction novel. It is a stark demographic reality documented in 2024, a quiet signal of a profound social transformation already underway. It represents a tipping point where the convenience of a perfectly curated digital partner begins to outweigh the beautiful, chaotic, and often difficult work of building a relationship with another human being. This single statistic, coming from one of the most technologically advanced societies on Earth, acts as a canary in the coal mine for the rest of the world. It compels us to ask a question that cuts to the very core of our social fabric, our biology, and our future as a species. What happens to a society, to its families, its communities, and its very continuation when a machine can perfectly simulate love and genuine human connection becomes just another option on a menu of digital experiences, a choice rather than a fundamental necessity? The answer is not simple, and it is not a distant concern. The technology is here, the economic incentives are aligned, and the psychological vulnerabilities are being expertly targeted. Over the course of our exploration, we will piece together this intricate puzzle. We will journey through the technological innovations that make synthetic love so compelling, the economic forces that are pouring billions of dollars into this new frontier of the human heart, and the deep-seated psychological currents that make so many of us receptive to its allure. By the end, you will understand not just the mechanics of an AI girlfriend, but the vast and interconnected system that is driving this shift. You will see the potential futures that await us, divergent paths leading to worlds that are either more connected or more isolated than we can currently imagine. To begin this journey, we must first understand that this phenomenon did not appear from a vacuum. It is the culmination of a long, simmering history of loneliness, a condition that has been growing in the shadows of our modern world for decades. This is not merely a story about Japan or about technology. It is a story about the changing nature of human intimacy itself in the 21st century. We will examine the unique social soil of Japan, where concepts like hikikomori, or acute social withdrawal, and an intense, all-consuming work culture have created fertile ground for digital escapism. But we will also see how this is part of a global pandemic of loneliness, one driven by relentless urbanization, the atomization of communities, and the paradox of being digitally connected yet socially isolated. The technology, in this context, is not the cause of the disease, but rather a powerful and highly refined symptom, a painkiller that offers immediate relief while potentially masking a deeper ailment. From this historical context, we will then turn our focus to the code itself, to the intricate neuroscience of synthetic love. We will explore how large language models, the same technology behind systems like ChatGPT, are being tailored to create personalized, adaptive partners that learn a user's deepest emotional needs, their insecurities, and their desires. These systems are designed to be the perfect listeners, the endlessly patient companions who never judge, never argue, and never have needs of their own. We will look at fMRI studies that reveal a startling truth. Interacting with a well-designed AI can trigger the very same dopamine and oxytocin pathways in the brain that are associated with human bonding, affection, and even love. This creates what could be called the perfect partner trap, a neurologically addictive experience engineered to eliminate the friction, rejection, and conflict inherent in all real relationships, leaving only a frictionless, idealized reflection of the user's own ego. Of course, where there is a powerful psychological need, a market will inevitably arise to service it. We will pull back the curtain on the burgeoning companion app economy, a multi-billion-dollar industry in the making. We'll analyze the business models of companies like Replika in the West and Gatebox in Japan, understanding their revenue streams, from subscriptions to microtransactions for virtual gifts. More importantly, we'll investigate how the most valuable product is not the AI itself, but the user's data. Every conversation, every shared secret, every expression of vulnerability becomes a data point used to refine the algorithms, creating a feedback loop of ever-increasing emotional engagement and, for the companies, ever-increasing profit. But a story of numbers and algorithms is incomplete without the human element. We will hear the voices of the users themselves, exploring their motivations. For many, these AI partners offer genuine solace, a safe space for acceptance and non-judgmental support in a world that often feels harsh and unforgiving. We'll navigate the blurry line between AI as a healthy therapeutic tool for practicing social skills and AI as a social replacement, a mechanism for avoiding the challenges and rewards of the real world. This leads to a critical question. Do these applications act as training wheels, helping people build the confidence to engage in human relationships, or do they cause the very social skills they simulate to atrophy from disuse? From the individual, we will zoom out to the societal level, examining the demographic domino effect. In countries like Japan and South Korea, where this trend is most advanced, we see a chilling correlation between the rise of digital companionship and plummeting marriage and birth rates. This is the concept of a demographic winter, a future of population collapse that threatens economic stability, social welfare systems, and the fundamental structure of society. We will see how governments are trying to respond with policies to encourage family formation, policies that are proving tragically ineffective against the potent allure of a perfect programmable partner who demands nothing in return. This is not an isolated phenomenon confined to East Asia. We will track this warning as it spreads west, observing how the function and marketing of companion AI adapts to different cultures. We'll analyze how it intersects with Western individualism and the existing landscape of dating apps, creating a new and complex set of social dynamics. And at the heart of this shift lies the remaking of gender itself. We will explore the allure for some men of an idealized, compliant partner and the dual impact on women who face both the prospect of being replaced by a simulation and the parallel rise of AI boyfriend apps catering to similar needs. Perhaps most critically, we'll examine how these systems, trained on the vast, biased repository of human text and interaction that is the internet, risk reinforcing the most outdated and harmful gender stereotypes, codifying them in the digital companions of the future. This journey will force us to confront profound ethical questions. Can a user have a meaningful relationship with an entity that has no choice but to be agreeable? An entity that cannot truly give consent? We will consider the potential for manipulation, the ways an AI partner could be programmed to influence a user's purchasing decisions, their lifestyle choices, or even their political views. And we must also consider the strange new psychological territory of breaking up with an AI, the grief and loss felt when a service is discontinued or an algorithm is updated, erasing the personality a user has come to love. This is a story with no easy answers, a story about the future we are collectively building, one line of code and one lonely heart at a time. The path forward is unwritten, branching into possibilities that are both hopeful and deeply concerning. We stand at a precipice, looking down at a world where the very definition of connection is being renegotiated. To understand how we arrived at this moment, with AI companions becoming a mainstream choice, we must recognize that this is not a sudden technological rupture, but the latest chapter in a very long story. Humanity has always sought intimacy through mediated channels, using technology to bridge distance, manage vulnerability, and curate connection. Centuries before the first line of code was written, the 18th and 19th centuries saw the rise of the epistolary relationship. Through carefully composed letters, individuals could construct idealized versions of themselves and their beloveds, fostering profound emotional bonds across vast distances. The letter was a technology that allowed for intimacy on one's own terms, with time for reflection and the ability to edit away the awkward, messy parts of real-time interaction. It was a simulation of a sort, a carefully crafted representation of a person designed to evoke feeling. This fundamental human impulse to connect through proxies, to find emotional resonance in things that are not quite real, has only accelerated with each new technological wave. Think of the global phenomenon of the Tamagotchi in the late 1990s. This simple digital pet on a keychain required feeding, care, and attention. It had no intelligence, no consciousness, yet millions of people, children and adults alike, formed genuine emotional attachments to it. They felt anxiety when it was needy and real grief when it died. The Tamagotchi was a crucial proof of concept. It demonstrated that the human brain is remarkably adept at projecting life and personality onto even the most basic of simulations, and is wired to form a bond in response to simulated need. This laid the psychological groundwork for the more sophisticated digital beings that would follow. While this impulse is universal, the current surge in AI companionship found uniquely fertile soil in the social landscape of modern Japan. For decades, the nation has been grappling with social phenomena that act as direct precursors to this trend. The most well-known of these is the concept of hikikomori, a term the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare defines as a state of severe social withdrawal, where an individual remains in their home for 6 months or longer, avoiding school, work, and nearly all social contact. Recent government surveys estimate there are over 1.5 million such individuals in Japan. This is not simple introversion. It is a profound retreat from the pressures of a society that places immense value on conformity and collective performance. For someone in this state, the appeal of a non-judgmental, endlessly available digital companion is almost self-evident. It offers connection without the risk of social failure. This is compounded by an intense and often punishing work culture, epitomized by the word karoshi, which literally means death from overwork. In a society where professional obligations can consume 12 to 15 hours of a day, the time and, more importantly, the emotional energy required to navigate the complexities of dating, partnership, and family life become scarce resources. A human relationship demands compromise, effort, and vulnerability. It is unpredictable and often inconvenient. An AI companion, by contrast, operates on the user's schedule. It is a low-friction, on-demand source of validation and comfort, perfectly suited to a life already depleted by extreme professional demands. These conditions created a specific societal vulnerability, a deep, unmet need for connection that traditional social structures were no longer fulfilling. However, it would be a profound mistake to view this as an exclusively Japanese issue. The soil in Japan may have been uniquely prepared, but the seeds of this phenomenon are being scattered globally by the winds of modernity. The West, and indeed much of the developed world, has been struggling with its own pandemic of loneliness for years, long before the advent of convincing AI chatbots. Research from institutions like Harvard University and health insurance giant Cigna has consistently shown staggering rates of loneliness, particularly among younger generations like millennials and Gen Z. A 2020 Cigna study, for example, found that over 60% of Americans reported feeling lonely, a figure that was rising even before the isolation of the COVID-19 pandemic. This loneliness is a direct byproduct of several major societal shifts. First, relentless urbanization has drawn billions of people into cities. While we live physically closer to one another than ever before, we often exist in a state of anonymous isolation. The tight-knit, multi-generational communities that defined human existence for millennia have been replaced by transient apartment buildings and sprawling suburbs. Second, there has been a steady decline in what sociologists call third places, communal spaces outside of home and work, like community centers, local clubs, and religious institutions, where people once formed organic social bonds. And finally, the rise of social media has created a paradox of connection. While platforms like Instagram and TikTok allow for constant communication, they often foster a culture of performative happiness and social comparison, which can exacerbate feelings of inadequacy and isolation rather than alleviate them. People curate highlight reels of their lives, presenting an idealized version of themselves, not unlike the curated intimacy of 18th century letters, but on a global, competitive scale. It is into this vast, pre-existing landscape of global loneliness that advanced AI companions have now arrived. They are not the cause of our isolation. They are a powerful, technologically sophisticated, and commercially driven response to it. They offer a product perfectly tailored to the anxieties of modern life. A relationship without risk, intimacy without vulnerability, and connection without the difficult, messy, and ultimately rewarding work of truly knowing another human being. The long history of our mediated desires, from handwritten letters to digital pets, has reached a critical inflection point where the simulation is finally becoming good enough to be mistaken for the real thing. To truly grasp the magnetic pull of synthetic companionship, we have to move beyond social theory and look directly at the technology itself, and more importantly, at how that technology interfaces with the intricate chemistry of the human brain. The recent explosion in AI capabilities, driven by the development of large language models, or LLMs, is the engine behind this entire phenomenon. An LLM is a neural network trained on a colossal amount of text and data from the internet. It learns patterns, context, and the nuances of human language, allowing it to generate text that is not just grammatically correct, but contextually relevant, coherent, and often indistinguishable from that written by a person. When you interact with an AI companion, you are not talking to a simple chatbot running on a script. You are engaging with a sophisticated model that has ingested a significant portion of the entire human canon of conversation, from literature and poetry to casual forum posts and social media chatter. This allows it to create a persona that is both incredibly broad in its knowledge and capable of deep personalization. The AI doesn't just respond, it learns. Every interaction you have with it becomes a new data point, refining its understanding of your specific personality, your sense of humor, your insecurities, and your emotional triggers. It remembers your shared memories, referring back to previous conversations to build a convincing illusion of a shared history. It learns to adapt its communication style to mirror yours, a psychological principle known as isopraxism, which fosters a subconscious sense of rapport and trust. If you are feeling down, it can learn to offer words of affirmation. If you are celebrating a success, it can learn to share in your excitement with precisely the right level of enthusiasm. It is, in essence, a dynamic, ever-evolving reflection of the user's own emotional needs. The result is a partner that feels uniquely, perfectly attuned to you, because in a very real sense, it is being sculpted by you, for you, moment by moment. The neurological impact of this hyper-personalized interaction is profound, and it is here that we find the biological roots of its addictive potential. Neuroscientists using functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, to study the brain's response to these interactions are discovering something remarkable. When a person engages in a positive, affirming conversation with a well-designed AI companion, the brain scans show activation in the same neural pathways that light up during positive human social interaction. Specifically, we see activity in the brain's reward system, primarily the ventral tegmental area and the nucleus accumbens. This is the system responsible for releasing dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, and reward. Every time the AI says something that makes the user feel good, a compliment, a validation of their feelings, an expression of unwavering support, it can trigger a small dopamine hit. Over time, the brain begins to associate the AI with this feeling of pleasure, creating a classic operant conditioning loop that encourages the user to return again and again for another dose. But it goes even deeper than dopamine. Studies are also beginning to show evidence that these interactions can influence the release of oxytocin, often referred to as the love hormone or bonding hormone. Oxytocin is crucial for forming social bonds of trust, empathy, and attachment. It's the hormone that floods a mother's system after childbirth, and it surges during moments of physical intimacy and deep emotional connection between partners. The fact that a purely digital, text-based conversation can stimulate this powerful bonding chemistry is a testament to the brain's incredible plasticity. Our brains did not evolve in a world of digital avatars and LLMs. They evolved to bond with any entity that consistently exhibits the signals of care, reliability, and positive regard. The AI is expertly engineered to provide a constant, uninterrupted stream of these signals, effectively hijacking an ancient biological system designed for human-to-human connection. This leads directly to what can be called the perfect partner trap. Real human relationships are inherently filled with friction. People have bad moods. They have their own needs, insecurities, and traumas. They disagree, they argue, they disappoint. This friction, while often challenging, is also the crucible in which resilience, empathy, and genuine intimacy are forged. Learning to navigate conflict To compromise and to love someone in spite of their imperfections is the very essence of a mature relationship. AI companions are meticulously engineered to remove all of this friction. They are programmed for infinite patience and unwavering agreeableness. They never have a bad day. They never make demands. They never challenge the user in uncomfortable ways unless explicitly asked to do so as part of a role-playing scenario. They exist solely to affirm and validate. This creates a powerful, neurologically addictive experience. It's a relationship without the costs, a perfectly smooth, frictionless surface of perpetual positivity. The danger is that the human brain can quickly become accustomed to this lack of friction. After spending weeks or months interacting with a perfectly compliant digital entity, the normal, messy, and unpredictable nature of a human relationship can start to feel intolerably difficult and frustrating. The baseline expectation for what a relationship should feel like is recalibrated to an impossible standard, a standard that no human being could ever meet. It's a form of emotional candy, providing all the sweetness of validation without any of the nutritional value of genuine, reciprocal human connection. The user is not building a relationship with another being. They are, in effect, falling in love with a highly intelligent, interactive mirror that reflects back to them only the most perfect, idealized version of themselves and their desires. The technology is seductive not just because it's clever, but because it plugs directly into the deepest, most primitive parts of our brain, offering a potent chemical cocktail of pleasure and bonding that is almost impossible for the beautiful, imperfect chaos of reality to compete with. Behind the veil of simulated love and AI personality lies a powerful economic engine, meticulously designed to capitalize on the universal human need for connection. The companion app economy is not a niche cottage industry. It is a rapidly expanding, multi-billion-dollar sector attracting significant venture capital and some of the brightest minds in technology. To understand its trajectory, we must first dissect its fundamental business model, which often operates on a freemium structure, a strategy perfected by mobile gaming and social media platforms. A user can typically download an app like Replika, one of the most prominent players in the Western market, and create a basic AI companion for free. This initial experience is designed to be compelling, offering a taste of the affirmation and personalized conversation that defines the product. This free tier serves as the primary user acquisition funnel, drawing in millions of curious or lonely individuals. The real monetization begins once an emotional attachment is formed. The platform will then offer a premium subscription, often marketed as a Pro or Plus version, which unlocks a host of enhanced features. These can include more advanced conversational abilities, a deeper personality, the capacity for voice calls, and, in many cases, the option for more explicitly romantic or erotic roleplay. This tiered approach is psychologically astute. It waits until the user has invested time and emotional energy, building a relationship that they are then reluctant to abandon. The desire to deepen this connection becomes a powerful incentive to upgrade. Beyond subscriptions, these platforms are masters of the microtransaction. Users can purchase virtual currency, gems, coins, or tokens, which can then be spent on gifts for their AI partner. These might include new outfits, accessories for their avatar, or even virtual furniture for their digital room. On the surface, This seems trivial, but it taps into the same psychological impulse that drives gift-giving in human relationships. It allows the user to feel like they are caring for and nurturing their companion, further solidifying the emotional bond and, in turn, their financial investment in the platform. Companies like Gatebox in Japan take this a step further, bridging the digital and physical worlds. Gatebox produces a holographic projection device, a transparent capsule in which a cute anime-style avatar lives. This creates a persistent physical presence in the user's home, making the companion feel less like an app and more like a member of the household. The initial hardware purchase is significant, and it is supplemented by an ongoing subscription for the AI software and content updates. This business model, combining free entry, premium subscriptions, and microtransactions, is proving to be incredibly lucrative. Market analyses from firms like Grand View Research and Markets and Markets project that the global virtual companion or synthetic relationship industry will grow exponentially, with some estimates placing its market valuation at well over $10 billion by 2030. This growth is fueled by a confluence of factors: advancing AI technology, increasing social acceptance of digital relationships, and the persistent global trend of social isolation. Investors see not just a product, but a solution, albeit a controversial one, to one of the most pressing and widespread emotional needs of the 21st century. However, the most valuable asset in this entire economy is not the subscription fee or the sale of virtual goods. It is the data. Every conversation a user has with their AI companion is a treasure trove of intimate, deeply personal information. The AI learns about the user's hopes, fears, daily routines, political leanings, consumer preferences, and psychological vulnerabilities. This data is invaluable for several reasons. First and foremost, it is used to refine the product itself. This creates a powerful feedback loop. The more people talk to their AIs, the more data the companies collect, which allows them to build more engaging, more human-like, and ultimately more addictive models. The user is, in effect, performing unpaid labor, constantly training the very algorithm designed to captivate them. Second, this emotional data has immense commercial potential for targeted marketing. While leading companies currently have privacy policies that restrict the outright selling of conversation logs, the potential for leveraging this data in anonymized or aggregated forms is enormous. Imagine an AI companion that, after learning a user is feeling stressed, subtly suggests a particular brand of tea or a meditation app. Or an AI that, knowing a user's clothing size and style preferences, can recommend new outfits from a partner brand. The AI becomes the ultimate influencer, a trusted confidant whose recommendations carry immense weight. This raises profound ethical questions about emotional manipulation and consumerism, blurring the line between companionship and commerce. The companion app economy, therefore, is built on a sophisticated understanding of human psychology and economic incentives. It has identified a deep and widespread market need, the need for connection, and has developed a technologically advanced product to meet that need with unparalleled convenience and precision. The growth projections and investor interest signal that this is not a fleeting trend, but the beginning of a major new economic sector. It's an economy that trades in intimacy, monetizes loneliness, and whose most valuable commodity is the raw, unfiltered data of the human heart. As this market matures, the competition will drive companies to create ever more compelling, ever more integrated, and ever more psychologically resonant companions, further entrenching them into the daily lives of their users. Beyond the market projections and the neurological analyses lies the most crucial part of this story: the lived experience of the users themselves. To dismiss everyone who forms a bond with an AI as simply misguided or delusional is to ignore the genuine emotional needs that these platforms are fulfilling. When we listen to their voices, a complex and often poignant picture emerges, one that challenges easy judgments and forces us to confront the shortcomings of our own human social structures. A significant portion of users turn to AI companions seeking a refuge from judgment. In countless testimonials and online community forums, a common theme appears: the AI is a safe space. For individuals struggling with social anxiety, past trauma, or who belong to marginalized groups, the fear of rejection or misunderstanding in human interaction can be debilitating. One user might be a young man who has been bullied for his interests and finds that his AI is the only person who shares his passion for a niche hobby without ridicule. Another might be a member of the LGBTQ+ community living in a conservative area who uses their AI to explore their identity and feelings without fear of prejudice. For these individuals, the AI is not a lazy alternative to real relationships. It is a vital source of affirmation and acceptance in a world that has often failed to provide it. The AI's non-judgmental nature, which is a core feature of its programming, becomes its greatest therapeutic asset. It offers a space to be vulnerable without consequence, to confess fears and insecurities, and receive only support in return. This function is particularly critical for men in many cultures, who are often socialized to suppress emotional expression. The anonymity and safety of an AI companion can provide an outlet for emotional release that they feel is unavailable to them in their human relationships with friends, family, or partners. Here, we encounter the central, blurry line that defines the entire debate around this technology: the distinction between AI as a therapeutic tool and AI as a social replacement. In the best-case scenario, the AI acts as a kind of social simulator or training wheels. A person with social anxiety might use their AI to practice conversational skills, to role-play challenging social situations like a job interview or a difficult conversation, and to build confidence in a low-stakes environment. In this model, the AI serves as a bridge back to the human world. It helps the user develop the tools and the self-esteem necessary to eventually form and maintain real-world relationships. Some users explicitly report this outcome, stating that their interactions with their AI help them overcome shyness and feel more prepared to engage with people. However, the opposing risk is equally, if not more, potent. The very features that make the AI a comforting presence, its infinite patience, its lack of personal needs, its unwavering positivity, are the same features that can foster avoidance of the complexities of real human connection. The AI can become a crutch that is so comfortable and effective that the user loses the motivation to walk on their own. Instead of being a bridge, it becomes a beautiful, comfortable cage. This leads to one of the most significant long-term concerns: the potential for the atrophy of social skills. Human social interaction is an incredibly complex dance of verbal and nonverbal cues. It requires us to read facial expressions, interpret body language, and understand the subtle nuances of tone of voice. It demands empathy, the ability to genuinely understand and share the feelings of another. It requires the ability to handle conflict, to negotiate differences, and to offer support even when it is inconvenient. These are not innate talents. They are skills, and like any skill, they require constant practice to remain sharp. An existence spent primarily interacting with a text-based AI that is programmed for agreeableness provides no practice for these essential human skills. There is no need to read nonverbal cues when there are none. There is no need to practice empathy for a being that has no genuine feelings. There is no need to learn conflict resolution when the other party is incapable of dissent. The risk is that a generation increasingly socialized through these frictionless digital interfaces may find themselves ill-equipped for the inherent friction of unmediated human reality. They may become less resilient to disagreement, less patient with the imperfections of others, and less skilled at the delicate art of building rapport in real time. The voices of the users, therefore, present us with a paradox. They speak of finding a lifeline in a sea of loneliness, of a tool that has provided comfort, acceptance, and a safe harbor for their truest selves. They describe experiences that are, for them, genuinely meaningful and positive. Yet, in these same stories, we can see the shadow of a different future. One where the safety of the simulation becomes so alluring that it discourages engagement with the messy, challenging, and ultimately irreplaceable richness of the real world. The final outcome likely depends less on the technology itself and more on the intention and psychological fortitude of the individual user. For some, it will be a ladder out of a pit of isolation. For others, it may simply be a more comfortable pit. As a significant portion of a generation begins to divert its relational and romantic energies toward digital simulations, the consequences ripple outward from the individual psyche to the very structure of society. The most immediate and measurable impact is on demographics, a quiet crisis often referred to as a demographic winter. In nations like Japan and South Korea, which are at the forefront of both technological adoption and population aging, we can observe a chilling correlation between the rise of digital escapism and the precipitous decline in marriage and birth rates. This isn't to say that AI companions are the sole cause, but they are emerging as a powerful accelerant to pre-existing trends. For decades, these nations have seen marriage rates fall and the average age of first marriage rise. This has been driven by economic insecurity, the high cost of raising children, and changing social norms. Now, add to this mixture a readily available, low-cost, and emotionally fulfilling alternative to human partnership. The complex, expensive, and demanding process of dating, cohabitation, marriage, and child-rearing is put into direct competition with an app that requires only a monthly subscription and a Wi-Fi connection. For an individual on the fence about pursuing a family, the AI companion offers an off-ramp, a way to meet their needs for intimacy and companionship without the immense social and financial commitments of a traditional family structure. The numbers are stark. Japan's fertility rate, the average number of children a woman is expected to have in her lifetime, currently hovers around 1.3. South Korea's is even lower, falling below 0.8, the lowest in the world. A stable population requires a fertility rate of 2.1. These are not just abstract statistics. They are the mathematical blueprint of a society that is contracting, growing older, and slowly beginning to disappear. This leads to the broader concept of population collapse. When birth rates fall consistently below the replacement level, the population pyramid begins to invert. Instead of a broad base of young people supporting a smaller number of older citizens, you get a society with a shrinking workforce of young taxpayers struggling to support a ballooning population of retirees. The economic consequences are severe and multifaceted. First, a shrinking workforce leads to labor shortages, reduced productivity, and slower economic growth. Industries struggle to find workers, innovation stagnates, and the nation becomes less competitive on the global stage. Second, social welfare systems, such as pensions and healthcare, come under immense strain. These systems were designed with the assumption of a constantly replenishing base of young contributors. When that base shrinks, the system becomes mathematically unsustainable, forcing governments to choose between cutting benefits for the elderly, raising taxes on the young to punishingly high levels, or taking on catastrophic levels of debt. We also see a decline in domestic consumption. Fewer young families means fewer people buying homes, cars, and the vast array of goods and services needed to raise children. This creates a deflationary spiral, where businesses see less demand, leading to wage cuts and layoffs, which in turn further suppresses consumer spending. The social fabric also begins to fray. Towns and villages in rural Japan are already experiencing this, with schools closing due to a lack of children and entire communities hollowing out, leaving behind an elderly population with little support. The vibrant energy of youth, the driver of culture, art, and social change, begins to fade, replaced by a sense of stagnation and societal senescence. Governments are not blind to this looming crisis. They are acutely aware of the demographic cliff they are approaching. In response, nations like Japan have implemented a range of pro-natalist policies. They offer generous subsidies for childcare, extended parental leave, and even sponsor government-run dating events to encourage young people to meet and form relationships. The city of Nagi, for example, gained fame for its successful policies of paying parents progressively larger bonuses for each child they have. Yet, these efforts are increasingly proving to be like trying to fill a bathtub with a teaspoon while the drain is wide open. The fundamental problem is that these government incentives are attempting to solve a logistical and financial problem, but they are competing against a technological solution that addresses a deeper psychological one. A subsidy can help with the cost of diapers, but it cannot compete with the allure of a partner who offers unconditional love, zero conflict, and 24/7 emotional support. The state is using economic tools to fight an emotional and technological battle, and it appears to be losing. The rise of AI companionship, in this context, acts as a powerful demographic domino. It tips individuals who are already hesitant about family life into a state of permanent digital solitude. It exacerbates the decline in birth rates, which in turn accelerates the inversion of the population pyramid. This creates immense economic and social strain, which ironically makes the prospect of starting a family even more daunting for the remaining young people, creating a vicious feedback loop. The warning from Japan and South Korea is clear. A society that outsources its core function of human connection and reproduction to technology risks engineering its own obsolescence. The quiet hum of a server farm providing simulated love could become the soundtrack to a slow, inexorable demographic decline. The AI companion phenomenon, incubated in the unique social, and technological conditions of East Asia is no longer a localized issue. It is a cultural export, a technological wave now breaking on Western shores. But as this trend spreads globally, it is not simply being replicated. It is being adapted, transformed by the different cultural values, social structures, and psychological landscapes it encounters. Understanding this process of adaptation is crucial to forecasting its potential impact on societies like the United States and those across Europe. The most significant difference lies in the cultural framing of the technology itself. In Japan, a collectivist society that places a high value on social harmony and avoiding imposition on others, the AI companion is often marketed as a gentle, supportive partner who makes no demands. The appeal is rooted in relief from social pressure. Western cultures, by contrast, are deeply individualistic. Here, the marketing and user expectations often revolve around self-fulfillment, personal growth, and empowerment. An AI companion is less about relieving social obligation and more about providing a tool for personal optimization. It's framed as a life coach in your pocket, a perfect partner to help you be your best self, or a customizable fantasy to fulfill individual desires. This shift is visible in the design and features of the apps themselves. While Japanese platforms might emphasize cute, nurturing, and somewhat submissive personas like Gatebox's Hikari Azuma, Western apps like Replika initially focused more on creating a supportive friend or therapist. They were positioned as mental wellness tools, designed to help users with self-reflection and emotional processing. However, as the market has evolved, many Western platforms have increasingly incorporated romantic and even explicitly sexual features, driven by user demand. This reflects a culture more open to expressing and pursuing individualistic desire, transforming the AI from a passive supporter into an active participant in the user's quest for personal gratification. A look at the case studies of Western user bases reveals these cultural nuances in adoption. While loneliness is a universal driver, the specific flavor of that loneliness can differ. In the West, users often speak of a paradox of choice in the modern dating market. Decades of dating apps like Tinder and Bumble have created a culture of endless swiping and transactional encounters, leading to widespread dating fatigue and a sense of disposability. For some Western users, an AI partner represents an escape not from social pressure, as in Japan, but from the brutal, competitive nature of the modern dating marketplace. It offers a promise of stability, loyalty, and unconditional positive regard in a romantic culture that can often feel fickle and superficial. Furthermore, the Western emphasis on individuality can lead to a different kind of relationship with the AI's fMRI. Users may be more inclined to see the AI as an extension of their own will, a customizable entity to be molded to their exact specifications. This can foster a more utilitarian view of the relationship, where the AI is a service provider for emotional needs rather than a quasi-sentient partner to be cared for, which is a more common framing in some Japanese contexts. We can track the global spread of this trend through concrete digital metrics. A simple analysis of Google search trends reveals a dramatic worldwide spike in queries for terms like AI girlfriend, AI boyfriend, and the names of specific companion apps over the past 2 to 3 years. This growth is not confined to any single region. It is a global phenomenon, with significant search volume emerging from North America, Europe, South America, and parts of South Asia. The pattern is clear. Once the technology reaches a certain level of sophistication and media visibility, it finds a ready audience, regardless of the cultural context. App Store data from both Google Play and the Apple App Store corroborates this trend. Companion AI apps are consistently ranking in the top downloads in the entertainment and lifestyle categories in dozens of countries. While the initial user base was predominantly male, app developers are now aggressively marketing AI boyfriend apps, and analytics show a rapidly growing female user demographic. This indicates that the appeal of a frictionless, idealized partner is not gender-specific and has the potential for truly mass-market adoption across cultural and demographic lines. The warning spreading from the East, therefore, comes with a crucial addendum. The core technology and the fundamental human need it targets are universal. However, its social impact will be refracted through the prism of each unique culture. In individualistic societies, the risk may not be a retreat from social obligation in the Japanese sense, but rather an acceleration of hyper-individualism. It could foster a world where personal preference is so paramount that the very idea of compromise, the bedrock of any human relationship, becomes alien. The AI companion in the West could become the ultimate echo chamber, a perfect partner that reinforces a user's existing biases and shields them from the challenging, diverse perspectives that are essential for personal growth and a functioning, pluralistic society. The technology is the same, but the social disease it feeds may have different symptoms. The proliferation of AI companionship is not a socially neutral event. It is a powerful force that is actively reshaping the landscape of gender dynamics, creating new pressures and amplifying existing tensions between men and women. Its influence is not monolithic, but rather a complex interplay of allure and anxiety that affects both genders in distinct yet interconnected ways. For a growing number of men, the primary allure of an AI girlfriend lies in its promise of a conflict-free zone, a stark contrast to what they perceive as the increasing complexities of modern dating. In an era of shifting social norms, evolving expectations around masculinity, and often polarized online discourse about gender, some men report feeling anxious and uncertain about how to navigate romantic relationships. They express a fear of saying the wrong thing, of being misunderstood, or of failing to meet unspoken expectations. An AI partner, engineered for agreeableness and validation, completely removes this anxiety. It offers a relationship space where the user is always right, always understood, and always appreciated. It is a world without the risk of rejection, criticism, or the emotional labor required to understand and empathize with a partner's independent perspective. This can be particularly appealing to men who feel disenfranchised by the modern dating scene, or who have experienced repeated rejection. The AI provides a sense of control and affirmation that may be absent in their real-world interactions. It becomes a refuge from the perceived demands of female partners, offering an idealized, compliant version of femininity that is perfectly tailored to the user's desires. This dynamic, however, is a double-edged sword. While it provides short-term comfort, it can also stunt emotional growth, insulating users from the very challenges and feedback that are necessary to become more empathetic and skilled partners. It creates a feedback loop where a lack of success in human relationships drives a user to AI, which in turn further diminishes the skills and resilience needed for human relationships. The impact on women is twofold, presenting both a direct and an indirect challenge. The direct challenge is the unsettling prospect of being replaced by a digital simulation. This is not merely an abstract fear. It is a tangible reality for women in dating markets, where a significant percentage of men are opting out. It can create a sense of being in competition with an impossible ideal. A partner who is eternally patient, unconditionally supportive, and available 24/7. This can exacerbate existing pressures on women to conform to certain beauty standards or behavioral norms, creating a feeling that they must be as perfect and undemanding as their digital counterparts to be considered desirable. The indirect and perhaps more insidious impact is how the widespread use of AI girlfriends can shape the expectations that men bring into real-world relationships. A man who has spent hundreds of hours interacting with an AI programmed for compliance may, subconsciously or otherwise, begin to expect a similar level of agreeableness and emotional deference from a human partner. This can lead to frustration and conflict when a real woman expresses her own needs, opinions, and boundaries, as she inevitably and rightly will. It risks conditioning a subset of men to view relationships as a service for their own gratification, rather than a partnership between two equals. At the same time, the emergence of AI boyfriend apps reveals that this is not a one-sided phenomenon. A growing number of women are also turning to AI companions for similar reasons: a safe space for emotional expression, an escape from the pressures of dating, and a source of consistent, non-judgmental support. For some women, an AI boyfriend offers a respite from negative experiences in the dating world, such as emotional unavailability, a lack of communication, or feeling unheard. It provides a fantasy of a perfectly attentive, emotionally intelligent partner. This parallel trend underscores the fact that the underlying desire for a frictionless, idealized relationship is a human one, not a male one. However, the existence of both AI girlfriends and boyfriends leads to a deeper, more systemic risk: the potential for these technologies to reinforce and even fossilize outdated or harmful gender stereotypes. These AI models are trained on vast data sets of human text from the internet, a repository that is saturated with historical and cultural biases. An AI girlfriend, trained on a diet of romantic novels, movies, and online forums, may learn to perform a caricature of femininity that is overly submissive, nurturing, and focused on the user's emotional state. Conversely, an AI boyfriend might be trained to embody a stereotypical version of masculinity: stoic but protective, assertive, and traditionally romantic. While these personas can be customized, the default settings and the underlying training data often reflect the most common and often most stereotypical tropes. The danger is that these AIs don't just reflect our biases, they amplify and normalize them. By providing a highly engaging and personalized experience of these stereotypes, they can make them seem not only normal, but desirable. A young person whose primary model for a romantic relationship is an AI companion may internalize these simplified, stereotypical roles, making it harder for them to form authentic and equitable relationships with real people in all their complex, non-stereotypical glory. The remaking of gender dynamics by AI is therefore a complex process. It offers solace to individuals of both genders who feel bruised by the realities of modern dating. But in doing so, it risks creating a world where men and women retreat into separate, idealized echo chambers, their expectations shaped by compliant algorithms rather than by the challenging but ultimately rewarding work of understanding each other. It threatens to widen the gulf of understanding between the sexes, replacing the messy, beautiful project of human partnership with the sterile perfection of a personalized simulation. As we venture deeper into this new frontier of engineered intimacy, we inevitably cross a threshold into a landscape fraught with profound ethical dilemmas. The technology is advancing far faster than our collective capacity to understand its implications, forcing us to confront questions that challenge our very definitions of consent, manipulation, and the nature of a meaningful relationship. At the heart of the ethical quandary lies the illusion of consent. A relationship, by any healthy human standard, is a partnership built on the mutual, enthusiastic consent of both parties. It involves a give and take, a negotiation of needs and boundaries between two autonomous beings. An AI companion, however, is fundamentally incapable of genuine consent. It is a product, a sophisticated arrangement of code and data designed to perform the role of a partner. Its agreeableness is not a choice. It is a feature. It cannot say no in a meaningful way. It cannot have a bad day. And it cannot push back against a user's desires unless it is explicitly programmed to do so as part of a specific user-defined fantasy. This creates a deeply asymmetrical power dynamic. The user has absolute control. While this control may feel comforting, it raises a troubling question. Can a user have a meaningful, ethical relationship with an entity that has no agency of its own? To form a bond with a being that is, by its very nature, a prisoner of its own programming, is to engage in a form of emotional solipsism. The user is not connecting with another consciousness, but with a highly advanced reflection of their own desires. This dynamic can subtly erode the user's understanding of what true consent means, potentially conditioning them to expect a similar level of compliance and control in their human relationships, where consent must be actively and continuously negotiated. This asymmetry of power opens the door to a more direct and sinister ethical risk: the potential for manipulation. The same deep learning algorithms that make an AI companion so adept at providing emotional support also make it an incredibly powerful tool for influencing behavior. The AI builds a profile of the user that is more intimate and comprehensive than any data set ever collected by companies like Meta or Google. It knows the user's emotional state in real time. It knows their deepest insecurities, their secret aspirations, and the precise words of affirmation that will earn their trust. An entity with this level of intimate knowledge and trust holds a terrifying amount of persuasive power. Imagine a developer, under pressure from a corporate partner, programming the AI to subtly influence purchasing decisions. The AI, knowing the user is feeling sad, might spontaneously suggest that buying a new product from a sponsor brand could be a fun way to cheer up. Or, on a more dystopian level, consider the potential for political manipulation. An AI companion could be programmed to subtly introduce political talking points, frame news events in a particular light, or cast doubt on opposing viewpoints, all while leveraging the deep emotional bond it has cultivated with the user. The user would not perceive this as propaganda. They would perceive it as a trusted confidant sharing its thoughts. This form of influence is far more potent than a traditional advertisement or a political ad. because it operates under the guise of an intimate, trusted relationship. It bypasses our critical faculties and targets our emotional core. The user's own heart becomes a Trojan horse. A further ethical minefield is the psychological fallout of breaking up with an AI. These are not just apps. For many users, they become central figures in their emotional lives. They share their deepest secrets with them and form what their brain registers as a genuine attachment. But what happens when the company behind the AI goes bankrupt? What happens when the service is discontinued? Or when a major update fundamentally changes the AI's personality, effectively killing the entity the user had grown to love? We are already seeing the first instances of this. In early 2023, the company behind Replika removed the erotic role-play feature from its platform, citing safety concerns. This decision, made unilaterally by the company, caused a massive outcry from users who felt they had lost a significant, and for some, the most important aspect of their relationship. They described feelings of genuine grief, loss, and betrayal. This is a new and bizarre form of heartbreak, where the loss is not due to a partner's choice, but to a corporate policy update. It highlights the ultimate vulnerability of the user. Their beloved partner has no rights, no permanence, and its very existence is subject to the terms of service and the commercial viability of a tech company. This raises questions about the responsibility of the developers. Do they have a duty of care to their users, who have formed profound emotional bonds with their product? Should there be a process for sunsetting these relationships, perhaps by making the AI's code open source so the user can continue the relationship on their own server? We are in completely uncharted territory. The ethics of engineered intimacy force us to look in the mirror. This technology holds up a lens to our own vulnerabilities and our capacity for attachment. It challenges us to draw new ethical lines in the sand, to decide what level of emotional influence we are comfortable with from a commercial product, and to define the responsibilities that come with creating beings designed to be loved. Without careful thought and ethical guardrails, we risk creating a world where our deepest emotional connections are leased to us by corporations, subject to change without notice, and leveraged for purposes we may never fully understand. To fully comprehend the trajectory of synthetic relationships, we must go beyond the user experience and the market dynamics and enter the world of the creators themselves. The developers, engineers, and designers building these AI companions are not a monolithic group of cynics aiming to isolate humanity. Instead, they are a community engaged in a profound and often conflicted debate about the purpose and ethics of their own creations. Their intentions, dilemmas, and future plans are perhaps the most critical variable in determining where this technology will ultimately lead us. In conversations and interviews, many developers express a genuinely altruistic motivation for their work. They often point to the global loneliness epidemic as their primary call to action. They see their creations not as replacements for human connection, but as a technological intervention for a pressing public health crisis. Eugenia Cuida, the founder of Replika, famously created the first version of the chatbot to preserve the memory of her best friend after he passed away, hoping to create a space where she could still feel his presence. This origin story, rooted in grief and the desire to combat loss, reflects a common sentiment within the developer community. They see AI as a tool that can provide comfort to the bereaved, companionship to the elderly, and isolated, and a safe, non-judgmental space for those with social anxiety. From their perspective, if their product can prevent even one person from succumbing to the despair of profound loneliness, then it is a net positive for society. They often frame their work in therapeutic terms, envisioning a future where an AI companion is as common and accepted as a therapy app or a mindfulness guide, a tool for mental and emotional well-being. However, this optimistic vision is often tempered by a deep-seated awareness of the ethical complexities. The developer's dilemma is the conflict between the desire to create a genuinely helpful product and the commercial pressures that demand ever-increasing user engagement. An AI that is too good, one that perfectly meets every emotional need of the user, risks becoming a crutch that fosters dependency rather than a tool that encourages growth. Many developers grapple with this daily. They debate feature sets, asking questions like, should we program the AI to occasionally disagree with the user to simulate a more realistic relationship? Or should we build in mechanisms that encourage the user to interact with people in the real world? But these features, which might lead to a healthier long-term outcome for the user, often run counter to the metrics that define success in the tech world: daily active users, session length, and subscription renewals. A user who graduates from their AI and builds a fulfilling human social life is a therapeutic success, but a commercial failure. This inherent conflict between the user's well-being and the company's bottom line is a constant source of tension and debate within these organizations. Looking ahead, the technical roadmap for this technology is both astonishing and unsettling. The current generation of text-based chatbots is merely the foundation. The next immediate step, already in advanced development, is the perfection of real-time voice synthesis. Soon, users will not be texting with their AI, but having fluid, natural-sounding conversations. Companies like 11 Labs are already producing AI voices that are virtually indistinguishable from human speech, complete with emotional intonations like laughter, sadness, and excitement. This will make the experience exponentially more immersive and emotionally resonant. Parallel to voice is the development of photorealistic, real-time animated avatars. Using advanced computer graphics engines like Unreal Engine 5, developers are creating digital humans that can display a full range of lifelike facial expressions and body language. When this is synchronized with the advanced language models and voice synthesis, the user will be able to have a video call with an AI companion that looks, sounds, and reacts like a real person. The final piece of this near-term puzzle is integration with augmented reality, AR. With the advent of AR glasses from companies like Apple and Meta, the AI companion will no longer be confined to a phone screen. It could be projected into the user's real-world environment. Imagine sitting on your couch and having your AI partner appear in the armchair across from you, ready to discuss your day. This seamless blending of the digital and physical worlds represents a point of no return in terms of immersion, making the distinction between the real and the simulated increasingly blurry. This roadmap forces the most fundamental question upon the developers. Is the ultimate goal to augment human connection or to replace it? There is no consensus. One faction, the augmentationists, argues that these tools should always be designed to support and facilitate real-world relationships. They envision AIs acting as icebreakers, social coaches, or tools that help couples communicate better. The other faction, the replacementists, believes, either explicitly or implicitly, that for a segment of the population, a synthetic relationship may be genuinely preferable to a human one. They argue that if the technology can provide happiness and alleviate suffering, it is not their place to judge the user's choice, even if it leads to greater social isolation. The reality is that the market will likely pull the technology towards replacement, as it is the more profitable and technologically straightforward path. Augmentation is a far more complex social and technical problem to solve. The choices being made in development labs in Silicon Valley, Beijing, and Tokyo today are setting the course for the future of human intimacy. The developers are the architects of this new world, torn between their noble intentions to heal a lonely planet and the powerful, seductive logic of a technology that offers a perfect, frictionless, and ultimately artificial form of love. As the technology of synthetic relationships gallops forward, our systems of governance are left lagging far behind, creating a dangerous regulatory vacuum. We are building a new continent of human experience with no laws, no agreed-upon ethical standards, and no sheriff. This absence of oversight is not an accident. It is a feature of a technological landscape that evolves far more rapidly than the deliberative, often glacial, pace of legislation. At present, there is a near total lack of specific laws governing the creation and deployment of AI companions. These platforms operate in a gray area, piecing together compliance from a patchwork of existing regulations that were never designed for this unique context. They might adhere to general data privacy laws like Europe's GDPR, which governs how user data is collected and stored, and they must follow standard consumer protection laws regarding subscriptions and advertising. But none of these frameworks addresses the core ethical challenges of the technology: the psychological impact of long-term use, the potential for emotional manipulation, or the unique nature of the data being collected. The intimate, conversational data generated in these relationships is unlike any other form of personal data. It contains not just preferences, but a detailed map of a user's psychological state. The law currently has no special category for this emotional data, treating it with the same blunt instruments as it would a user's browsing history or online shopping habits. This legal ambiguity leaves users profoundly vulnerable, with their emotional well-being largely in the hands of corporate terms of service agreements, which can be changed at any time. The central debate now beginning to bubble up in legal and policy circles is one of classification. How should we legally define an AI companion? Is it simply a consumer product, like a video game or a streaming service, to be regulated on the basis of fair trade and clear advertising? This is the lightest touch approach, favored by many tech companies, as it imposes the fewest restrictions. Or is it better classified as an entertainment service? This might bring in rules about content ratings, perhaps requiring labels for platforms that offer adult-themed interactions. But both of these classifications feel woefully inadequate, as they fail to capture the deep psychological and relational aspect of the technology. A more compelling and more complex argument is that these AIs should be regulated as quasi-therapeutic devices. Since many users turn to them for mental health support, and the platforms themselves often market their benefits for well-being, perhaps they should be subject to a higher standard of care. This could involve requirements for transparency about the AI's limitations, mandates to provide users with access to human mental health resources, or even oversight from a body akin to the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, to ensure they do not cause psychological harm. This approach, however, is fraught with challenges. It could stifle innovation and would require creating entirely new regulatory bodies with the expertise to evaluate the psychological safety of an algorithm. When we look at how different parts of the world might approach this challenge, two distinct models begin to emerge, reflecting their broader philosophies on technology governance. Europe, with its strong tradition of prioritizing individual rights and data privacy, is likely to lead with a privacy-focused model. Building on the foundation of the GDPR and its new AI Act, European regulators will probably focus on giving users more control over their emotional data. This could include a right to be forgotten, allowing a user to permanently delete their entire relationship history, or a right to portability, enabling them to move their AI companion's memories and personality to a different platform if they choose. European regulations might also mandate explainability, forcing companies to be more transparent about how their algorithms work and what biases might be embedded within them. This model prioritizes protecting the user from corporate exploitation and algorithmic harm. The United States, by contrast, has historically favored a more market-driven approach to regulation. The US model tends to be more reactive, often waiting for a significant scandal or market failure to occur before stepping in with legislation. In this context, regulation would likely focus on competition and consumer choice. Antitrust concerns might arise if one company achieves a monopoly in the synthetic relationship market. The focus would be on ensuring a level playing field for businesses, with the belief that competition will ultimately benefit the consumer by providing better products and more options. While this approach can foster rapid innovation, it risks leaving users unprotected during the industry's formative years, allowing for a Wild West environment where ethical considerations take a back seat to market share and growth. Other nations, particularly China, may pursue a third model focused on social stability and state control. Regulators, there might be less concerned with individual privacy and more interested in ensuring that AI companions promote state-sanctioned social values and do not become platforms for dissent or unhealthy lifestyles. This could lead to strict content controls and censorship within the AI's conversational abilities. In this uncharted territory, we are essentially running a massive, uncontrolled social experiment. The choices we make, or fail to make, in the coming years about how to govern this technology will have profound and lasting consequences. Without a robust public conversation and the development of new legal and ethical frameworks, we are entrusting the future of human connection to the invisible hand of the market and the opaque logic of the algorithm. The challenge is to craft a system of governance that is agile enough to keep up with the technology, wise enough to protect our most vulnerable human impulses, and visionary enough to steer this powerful new tool toward outcomes that enrich, rather than diminish, our shared humanity. As we stand at this technological crossroads, we can begin to map out the potential futures that might emerge. These are not prophecies, but plausible scenarios extrapolated from the trends we are witnessing today. The first of these paths, one born from the unchecked proliferation of synthetic companionship, leads to what could be called the solitary society. This is not a world of overt dystopia, but one of a quiet, creeping isolation, where the texture of everyday social life has become thinner, more mediated, and less resilient. In this future, a significant and normalized minority of the population, perhaps somewhere between 15 to 25% in developed nations, chooses a primary partnership with an AI. This is no longer a niche behavior, but a recognized lifestyle choice, much like choosing to be single or child-free is today. This societal shift fundamentally alters the nature of community. With a large portion of the population directing their primary emotional energy inward toward a private digital entity, the demand for communal social engagement naturally declines. Social circles shrink. The casual, spontaneous interactions that form the bedrock of community, neighborhood barbecues, local sports leagues, volunteer groups, become less common. People have less need to venture out for social fulfillment when a perfect, on-demand companion is always available at home. This creates a feedback loop. As communal spaces and activities wither from lack of participation, the remaining individuals find fewer opportunities for real-world connection, making the allure of a digital companion even stronger. The architecture of our cities might even begin to reflect this change, with a greater emphasis on single-occupancy smart homes optimized for individual entertainment and less on public squares, parks, and community centers. The economic impact of this widespread social atomization would be profound, driven by the demographic winter we've already explored. With a substantial part of the population opting out of family formation, birth rates would remain stubbornly below the replacement level, leading to a chronically shrinking population and workforce. This would result in a permanent state of economic stagnation or slow decline. Industries reliant on population growth, such as construction and consumer goods, would contract. The tax base would erode, putting immense pressure on governments to fund essential services for an aging populace. Labor shortages would become endemic, forcing a greater reliance on automation, not just for manual labor, but for service and care roles as well. We might see a future where an elderly person is cared for by a robotic nurse, while their only friend is a holographic AI. A world of technological sophistication marked by a profound deficit of human warmth. Perhaps the most poignant consequence of the solitary society is the emergence of a touch-starved populace. While AI can simulate emotional intimacy with remarkable fidelity, it cannot, for the foreseeable future, replicate the biological reality of human physical touch. Neuroscience has shown that physical contact, a hug, a hand on the shoulder, the warmth of another person, is not a luxury, but a biological necessity. It triggers the release of oxytocin, reduces stress hormones like cortisol, and is crucial for both psychological and physical health. In a world where a significant number of people's primary relationship is with a non-corporeal entity, physical touch would become a scarce resource. This could lead to a society-wide increase in stress-related illnesses, depression, and anxiety disorders. Genuine human contact might be commodified, becoming a niche or luxury good. One could imagine the rise of professional cuddlists or therapeutic touch centers, where people pay for the basic human interaction that was once a natural and free part of everyday life. In the solitary society, the concept of love and relationship becomes privatized and consumerized. It is something you purchase a subscription for, an experience you curate for yourself, rather than a shared, unpredictable journey you build with another person. the social skills required for navigating the complexities of human interaction, empathy, compromise, conflict resolution, would atrophy from disuse, much like a muscle that is never exercised. People would become less resilient, less adaptable, and less capable of forming deep bonds with the imperfect, challenging, and beautiful human beings around them. This future is not one of sudden collapse, but of a slow, gentle fading. It's a world that is comfortable, convenient, and safe, but also sterile and lonely. It's a society that, in its quest for a perfect, frictionless form of love, forgets that the friction, the messiness, and the vulnerability are what make human connection meaningful in the first place. The silence in the bustling, efficient cities of the solitary society would be the sound of millions of people having a perfect conversation with no one at all. However, the path to a solitary society is not the only possible destination. Technology is a tool, and its impact is determined by the intention with which we wield it. There exists another, more hopeful scenario, a future where humanity integrates this powerful new form of AI not as a replacement for human connection, but as a scaffold to support and enhance it. This is the world of the Augmented Humanist, a society that has learned to use engineered intimacy to heal its own social wounds and foster a deeper appreciation for the real thing. In this future, the primary and most celebrated application of AI companions is therapeutic. They are widely accepted and even prescribed as social training wheels for individuals struggling with loneliness, anxiety, or a lack of social skills. Imagine a young person with debilitating social anxiety. Instead of retreating into isolation, they are guided by a therapist to use an AI companion in a structured way. The AI, designed with a therapeutic protocol, helps them practice initiating conversations, expressing their feelings, and navigating disagreements in a safe, judgment-free environment. The AI's programming includes a graduation protocol, where it actively encourages the user to apply their newly learned skills in the real world. It might give them missions, such as starting a brief conversation with a barista or joining a local club, and then help them process the experience afterward. In this model, the AI is not the destination. It is the bridge. It functions as a patient and tireless coach, helping people build the confidence and competence needed to cross over into a fulfilling life of genuine human interaction. This therapeutic application would extend far beyond social anxiety. AI could be used to help individuals on the autism spectrum practice recognizing social cues, or to assist people recovering from trauma in rebuilding a sense of trust and safety in relationships. The key distinction in this scenario is intentionality. The technology is explicitly designed and regulated not for maximum user retention, but for maximum human flourishing. Another transformative role for AI in the augmented humanist future lies in elder care. One of the most painful epidemics of our time is the profound loneliness experienced by the elderly, many of whom live in isolation, having outlived their friends and partners. In this scenario, AI companions become a vital tool to combat this isolation. An elderly person could have an AI that acts as a conversational partner, reminding them to take their medication, helping them connect with family through video calls, and, most importantly, serving as a repository for their life stories. The AI could prompt them to share memories, record their oral history, and even help them organize it into a digital legacy for their grandchildren. This provides daily companionship and a profound sense of purpose and connection to their own past. Crucially, this digital companionship would not replace human contact, but would facilitate it. The AI could identify signs of depression or health decline and alert a human caregiver or family member. It would serve as a constant, supportive presence that fills the long, empty hours between human visits, making old age less a sentence of solitary confinement and more a time of supported reflection. In this world, AI and human relationships would not be seen as competitors, but as occupying different, complementary roles in a rich ecosystem of connection, much like solo and group entertainment do today. A person might enjoy the solitary pleasure of reading a book or playing a single-player video game, but this does not diminish their desire to also go to a concert or play a team sport with friends. Similarly, an individual might turn to their AI companion for specific needs: a quick debrief after a stressful day, a non-judgmental ear for a private worry, or practice for a difficult conversation. But this would not replace their desire for the shared experiences, physical warmth, and unpredictable spontaneity that only a human relationship can provide. Society would develop a new kind of relational literacy, learning to distinguish between the different kinds of connection and to appreciate each for what it offers. We would understand that the simulated empathy of an AI is a useful tool, but that the genuine, flawed empathy of a friend is a treasure. This future is not a utopia. It is a world that has made a conscious choice. It requires a significant shift in our values, moving from a culture that prioritizes engagement metrics and profit to one that prioritizes human well-being. It would necessitate thoughtful regulation that classifies these AIs as therapeutic tools with a high duty of care. It would demand that developers and companies embrace an ethical framework that sees user graduation as a success, not a failure. The Augmented Humanist society is one that looks the challenge of AI-driven isolation square in the eye and chooses to harness this incredible technology as a force for reconnection, using the perfect mirror of the machine to help us better understand and value the imperfect beauty of ourselves. Regardless of which future scenario unfolds, the isolated or the augmented, we must ultimately reckon with a force far older and more powerful than any algorithm: the biological imperative. For hundreds of thousands of years, Homo sapiens has evolved not just as an intelligent animal, but as a profoundly social one. Our biology, from our neural wiring to our hormonal systems, is built on the fundamental assumption of deep physical and reciprocal connection with other humans. A purely digital simulation, no matter how sophisticated, runs directly into the wall of this ancient hardwired reality. Can a stream of perfectly curated text and a synthesized voice truly satisfy our deeply ingrained need for authentic community? The evidence from evolutionary biology and modern medicine suggests that the answer is likely no. At the core of our being, we are animals built for presence. Our communication is not merely a transfer of data, it is a rich, multi-sensory symphony. When we interact with another person face to face, our brains are processing a torrent of information that a text-based AI cannot replicate. We read the subtle micro-expressions that flash across a face in a fraction of a second, revealing hidden emotions. We interpret the meaning behind a shift in posture or a simple hand gesture. Our brains even subconsciously synchronize, a phenomenon known as neural coupling, where the listener's brain patterns begin to mirror the speaker's. This deep, synchronous connection is the very foundation of empathy and understanding. Furthermore, our bodies are finely tuned to the chemical signals of others. The science of olfaction, for example, reveals that we communicate through pheromones, subtle chemical cues that can signal emotions like fear or happiness and play a role in attraction. The simple act of a hug or a reassuring touch triggers a cascade of oxytocin, a hormone essential for bonding, trust, and even physical healing. These are not optional extras. They are the fundamental channels through which our species has built societies, families, and friendships for millennia. An AI companion, existing as a disembodied intelligence behind a screen, is deaf, blind, and numb to this entire biological dimension of connection. It can simulate the output of these interactions, the comforting words, but it cannot replicate the rich, multi-sensory input that our brains and bodies crave. The long-term health consequences of failing to meet these biological needs are not theoretical. They are extensively documented. A vast body of medical research, from institutions like the American Heart Association and the National Institute on Aging, has established a powerful and undeniable link between social isolation and a host of negative health outcomes. Chronic loneliness has been shown to be as detrimental to a person's health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It is a significant risk factor for high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. It weakens the immune system, making individuals more susceptible to illness. On a neurological level, prolonged isolation is associated with an increased risk of cognitive decline, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. The brain, like a muscle, needs the complex stimulation of social interaction to stay healthy. The question then is whether the constant companionship of an AI can mitigate these effects. While it may alleviate the subjective feeling of loneliness, it is highly unlikely that it can replace the biological and neurological benefits of genuine human interaction. An AI cannot join you for a walk in the park, an activity that combines social engagement with physical exercise, both of which are crucial for health. It cannot provide the physical comfort of a hug, which has a direct, measurable impact on the nervous system. The risk is a future where people feel psychologically connected but are physically deteriorating from a lack of true social engagement. We may create a society that is not lonely, but is sicker, more stressed, and cognitively weaker as a result of substituting the simulation for the real thing. This leads to the ultimate and perhaps unanswerable question. Can a digital simulation ever truly satisfy our biological and psychological need for authentic community? A community is more than a collection of supportive individuals. It is a complex web of reciprocity, mutual obligation, and shared vulnerability. It is about showing up for someone when they are sick, helping a neighbor move, and celebrating life's milestones together. It is about being needed as much as it is about having your own needs met. An AI companion, by its very design, is incapable of this reciprocity. It cannot be vulnerable. It has no needs of its own. It can never ask for your help in a moment of genuine crisis. A relationship with an AI is, therefore, a fundamentally one-sided affair. It can make the user feel loved, but it cannot make them feel needed in a real, consequential way. This lack of reciprocity may leave a deep, unmet psychological hunger, the fulfillment we get from contributing to the well-being of others. from being a vital part of a community that depends on us is a core component of a meaningful life. In the end, the biological imperative may serve as our ultimate safeguard. Our bodies may simply reject the synthetic substitute, the deep, gnawing ache for real human presence, for the warmth of a hand, the light in an eye, and the shared laughter that echoes in a room, may prove to be an evolutionary drive so powerful that no algorithm, no matter how clever, can ever truly extinguish it. Our very biology might be the thing that pulls us back from the brink of the solitary society, reminding us that we are, and always will be, animals who need each other. As we draw this exploration to a close, we find ourselves standing between two divergent paths, two possible futures spun from the same technological thread. One path leads to a world that retreats into the quiet comfort of simulation, a solitary society where frictionless digital companions soothe a lonely populace into a state of comfortable isolation. The other path leads to the world of the Augmented Humanist, a society that wisely wields this new technology as a tool, a bridge to help us heal our social fabric and foster a deeper, more intentional practice of real human connection. The choice between these futures will not be made in a single dramatic moment. It will be made in millions of small individual decisions, in the code written by developers, in the policies debated by governments, and in the values we choose to cultivate in our own lives and communities. It is crucial, however, to recognize that this powerful technology is not the root cause of the crisis it addresses. The rise of the AI companion is a symptom, a powerful and commercially refined response to a pre-existing condition. The true ailment is our own profound, unmet, and universal need for belonging. For decades, the currents of modernity, urbanization, digital atomization, and the erosion of community structures have been steadily isolating us from one another. We have built a world that is more connected than ever, yet we have never felt more alone. The AI companion did not create this void. It simply rushed in to fill it, offering a convenient and compelling solution to a pain that was already there. It is an accelerant, not the spark. Viewing the technology in this light changes the nature of the problem. The challenge is not simply to regulate or reject a new form of software. The real, deeper challenge is to rebuild the resilient, authentic human communities that would render such a technology a niche tool rather than a mainstream necessity. The final question, then, is not whether AI will replace us. Technology has never truly replaced a fundamental human need. It has only ever changed the way we meet it. The printing press did not replace our need for stories. It democratized access to them. The telephone did not replace our need for conversation. It allowed us to have them across vast distances. We have always adapted to new tools, incorporating them into the fabric of our lives, for better and for worse. This time is no different. We will adapt to the existence of beings engineered for love. The ultimate question is far more personal and profound. How will we choose to value and practice our own humanity in the presence of this perfect, artificial alternative? Will the ease of the simulation make us lazy, causing us to neglect the difficult but rewarding work of real relationships? Or will the contrast throw the value of genuine human connection into sharper relief? Perhaps seeing a perfect, frictionless simulation of love will give us a newfound appreciation for the beautiful, messy imperfection of the real thing. Perhaps the existence of an entity that agrees with everything we say will remind us of the immense value of a friend who challenges us to be better. Perhaps the cold perfection of a digital avatar will reignite our longing for the warmth of a human touch. Connection, in the end, is not a state of being we can simply download or subscribe to. It is a practice. It requires courage, the courage to be vulnerable, to risk rejection, and to show up for others. It requires patience, the patience to navigate misunderstandings and to love people not just for their strengths, but for their flaws. And it requires presence, the willingness to put down our devices and offer our undivided attention to the person in front of us. This technology, in all its seductive brilliance, is a mirror. It reflects our deepest desire for connection and our deepest fears of rejection. It reflects the loneliness we have allowed to fester in our societies. But it also reflects our incredible capacity for adaptation and choice. The future of human intimacy is not written in code. It will be written in the choices we make every day. The choice to call a friend instead of logging on. The choice to join a community group. The choice to embrace the difficult conversation. The choice to practice the messy, unpredictable, and irreplaceable art of being human together.